This week on We Love to Camp, we're going to be talking about air pressure on your tires in the RV. We're going to be talking about why, we're going to talk about how, we're going to talk about what to do and different ways to do it, and how I like doing it, which is different from what most people do. And personally, I think better. Stick around. Okay, I don't have to turn for another 50 miles or so. So as long as I don't get sucked in by these guys right here, yeah, these guys, we'll be all right. I got the cruise control set at 62 mile an hour, headed down I-70, headed back to Alexandria to turn in the camper and get that back wall replaced. Not sure how long it's going to take them. They don't have the parts on hand yet, but they want the camper. I don't know. We're talking about tire pressure on your camper tires. There's two popular trains of thought. Then there's a better opinion. And then there's mine. I'm going to go over all three of them here. Regardless of what you do, it's important to keep your tires inflated. Personally, I would rather be overinflated than underinflated. When your tires are underinflated, that's when the heat builds up. And when the heat builds up, that's when they explode. And you can tell me all day about having Goodyear endurance tires. If you talk to some tire guys, they'll tell you those are their number one service call, is for blown up Goodyears. I've heard that from two. Personally, I'm cheap. We all know that. I run China bombs. 10 years now, no problems. You just make sure you change them before they expire, and everything will be fine. So the first train of thought is go by the sticker on the side of the camper. That's a hard one to argue with. However, let's say you have an 8-year-old camper. Is the tire technology of today the same as it was 8-9 years ago? Well, let's go back, because that camper was probably designed 10 years before that, as far as the weight of the chassis and them using those tires. So you could be looking at 20-year-old advice. That's a stretch, I know, but I'm exaggerating for effect. So if you don't have the original tires on your camper, who's to say that that advice is good advice anymore? The advice from the manufacturer. Could go by the sticker right here, but that's not always good. Now what? The other train of thought, which really I just touched on, is to run your tires at max pressure. A lot of people say that, and they say it for multiple reasons. The main thing goes back to what I said, I'd rather see them a little overinflated than under, and then they're just generally too lazy to do any research. Those are the two most common trains of thought. I can argue either one, either direction. 6 one way, half dozen the other. Now, the closest one to right that you'll get people saying is to find your tire manufacturer's load rating chart online. You have to know how much your RV weighs, and then you look up that tire, look up the weight, and then see what it says to run your tires at. Still one other way to do it. This is the way I do it. Personally, I think it's the absolute best way. 0 questions, 100% accurate. We've all seen the illustrations where if you run your tires underinflated, then the tread cups up like this. You got your sidewall, and then it goes like that on the ground contact. That's bad. And then, of course, overinflated. You can already imagine what overinflated would look like. It'd be rounded, so you're only running on the center of the tire. Also bad. So what you want is full contact of the tread. The section width of the tire, you want full contact, equal contact. The best way to do that is through a little experimenting. Before I left, I filled up the tires at max pressure. I took them up to 80 pounds. The tires that I took off were 65 pounds. Again, exactly like I said before. These are not the original tires. How does Keystone know what my tires are going to take? They don't. So I've got them filled up to max pressure, 80 pounds. That's 80 PSI cold. You don't have to bleed off air after running because the air inflates. They know this. Engineers know that the pressure expands. They figured that into the calculation. They figured the volume of air inside the tire. They figured everything out. All the way down to where all you have to do is have cold pressure set. Whoa. That's cool. Sorry. I just saw a biplane fly over. Like an old World War I fabric-covered biplane. Just flew right over Central Ohio. That's awesome. I haven't seen one in the air since last time I saw one in the air. So what I'm going to do, I've already gone 10 miles on the freeway. 12 or 13 miles, actually. And I'm going to pull over up here somewhere. And I'm going to check the temperature of the tread. This is an infrared, non-contact temperature gun. Shoots a little red laser to a point, and then it gives me a readout saying what the temperature of that item is. It's really cool. This one is a Raytech Mini Temp. I don't have a part number on here. Not that I can see without my glasses anyways. But see, this one is really cool. It's turned off until you hit the button. And as soon as you hit the button, there you go. 83 degrees. That's how easy this is to use. Now what you want to do is, with the little red dot, you hold it close to the rubber. Because just like any lasers, the laser is not a solid point. It goes out like this. Think of the Wi-Fi signal or the Wi-Fi icon on your phone. That's how it goes out. So the closer you hold it to the surface is the more accurate, the more of a pinpoint of what you're taking the temperature of. So you want to get it close to the rubber and just go across the rubber like that. Straight across from edge to edge. And you're looking for an even temperature. Slight variance, yeah, that doesn't matter. And you want to check all 4 tires. Don't just go with one. Don't ask me why. I've seen a difference in tire temperature from one side to the other. And I guess if you got the kitchen on one side, that side could be heavier and it want more air. That would make sense. Front and rear axle, if you're perfectly level, they should match. Again, assuming the weight isn't too extremely different front to back. So just regardless, take all those variables out and just check each tire. Since that is the max pressure I can do, I can't go any more. I shouldn't go any higher. I'm not going to. So once you hit, if the temperature in the center of the tire is higher than on the 2 edges, then you need to let air out. The center of the tire would be getting more friction than the edges and creating more heat. Once you get a constant, steady number going all the way across the tread, you found your ideal pressure. So that's the hard part. Now what you got to remember is park your RV, campsite, home, wherever, and let it sit overnight. In the morning, before the sun has had time to heat up the sidewalls of the tires, you'd be amazed how much the pressure increases just from the solar heat. So before all that, go out and check the air pressure. Whatever that air pressure is, that's your new cold air pressure number. You can get one of those little label makers and print out, 47 psi, 52 psi, whatever, and stick it just above that wheel on the body, especially if they're different. Now, if they're like one's 51, one's 52, one's 54, you can average those numbers because you are splitting hairs when you're going pound by pound. If you got 51, 2, 3, and 4, put it at 53, all 4 of them. This will net you the absolute most precision way of getting the correct air pressure for your rig, loaded your way, driven your speed. Those are some of the variables right there. Nobody drives like you. Nobody loads like you. Now, I generally agree with what the manufacturers tell you to do on most things. They've got the engineers, they've got the lawyers, they do the science, they do the math. But on some things, you're better off doing your own testing like this. There's too many variables. Now, interestingly enough, this is through my own, I'm not even going to call it research, but through my own testing, I have frequently found that max pressure is usually pretty close. I'm going to pull off right up here at this exit and pull over into a parking lot and get a quick temperature just to show you guys what I'm talking about. Game over. So like I said, sometimes max pressure for the tire is what you want to run. I have to sit down and look at that clip carefully and make sure I'm reading it properly, because it was taking temperatures inside the tread and then on the top of the tread block. The tread block is what's important, the part that's hitting the ground. The grooves in the tread helps keep the tire cool. So you don't want to go by that temperature. Now, all this tire pressure and tire temperature talk brings us to another topic, and that is your tire pressure monitoring systems. I'm going to see if I can't get a lower cost tire pressure monitor system. I'd like to get pressure and heat, but I'll stick with pressure alone if that's all I can afford. I peeked at the prices a couple weeks ago, and I was shocked at how cheap they can be. Hopefully they're just inexpensive and not cheap. I don't like cheap electronics. I like inexpensive electronics. The beauty on those things, not only so you don't have to check your tires every day, you really should still check them. Even though you've got a screen right there telling what the pressure is, it's a good idea to check them. But the real beauty...
Speed check reported ahead on I-70 West.
I love that. I love that feature. But literally, it will give you enough warning to where you can pull over and not have a tire explode. And that's how these tires go. They don't just leak. They don't just start thumping. They just go boom, just like that. Something else I usually do, I'm not doing it now because the camera's going for audio purposes, but I'll usually have that back window open. That way I can hear,
in 10 miles, take exit 14 onto State Route 503 toward West Alexandria.
That way I can listen to what's going on back there. They spend a lot of money trying to make these trucks quiet. And and people just don't hear their tires exploding. If you don't hear your tire explode, you might not realize it for a few miles, and you're going to be beating the absolute crap out of your camper. When the rubber starts flopping around and beating everything really bad, you're going to lose siding, you're going to lose fiberglass, you're going to lose the floorboards. Then it starts eating up on your PEX piping. It'll just grab those pipes and just rip them right out of the camper. So now you got PEX piping sitting in the middle of the freeway 3 miles back.
Miles, take exit 14 onto State Route 503 toward West Alexandria.
Stop yelling at me. I think that's going to be about it for this week. If you found any of this information good to have, educational, if you learned anything, whatever, go ahead and click the like button. Just tickle it just a little bit, and that helps with the algorithm and gets more people watching. And just like always, if you think that my reasoning is incorrect for how I do it, let me know in the comments. If you work for Goodyear, let me know, or any of the others. I would love to hear your take on the way I do mine with the temperature gauge, temperature gun. Engineers, same thing. Let me know what you think of my way of doing it. I hope to have another episode for you guys next week. I do apologize about last week. If I don't see you in the comments, we'll see you at the campgrounds. Take it easy.